Okay, well, I'm getting ready to put the seal on the bottom of the gas tank. And let me explain how this worked, or how I'm going to replicate this. This is the original seal. And let me just show you the... Okay, here's a section. This is silver paint from the bottom of the gas tank. So what they did is they glued this foam, and you can see how it's about a 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little bit more than a 1/4 inch thick. And they glued this to the underside. And then what they did is they applied this cement. It's more like a putty. It's actually very much like a putty, and they applied this putty. Now this would be glued to, this is glued to the gas tank. This putty is on the body. So in order to replicate that, I'm going to glue, this is classic Alfa rubber seal, and it's very flexible. And it's not quite as thick as the original, but it's pretty darn good replica. So what I'm going to do is I did a little test here. I actually applied some contact cement to the bottom of this, and I glued a piece. It stuck really well. So I'm going to apply contact cement all the way around the perimeter and also to the bottom of this. And I'm going to let it set up for a while, and then I'm just going to press fit it in. So I'll get to that toot sweet. Well, here we got it installed. So it's a little bit of a trick. Give yourself a lot of room to work. Not the best job there, but neither was the factory. So it looks pretty good. I'm going to let this dry for quite a while. There's no rush. I got plenty of time. So this will be installed maybe as soon as tomorrow. We'll see. Might have a busy day tomorrow, though. I might not be able to get to it. But all right, so far so good. All right, well, this is one of those horror stories. These are two condensers. That's the original Morelli. That is a reproduction I got from Classic Alfa. You can see the differences. This lead is much longer, and the housing, I'll try to point to this. The profile of the housing, see how close that hole is to the edge here? See how far away this hole is? See how far away that hole is to the edge? And you can see I had to modify this to get it to work. The bottom line is I'm going to have to grind off a good section over here to get it to fit within the confines of the... This is where it... All right, kind of a historic day here. We're going to try to put the tank back in the car. I put this blunt towel over here to sort of buffer the paint. I think I'm going to be inserting it this way, and sliding it in down this way. If I remember, it actually should slide in. If you get it at the right angle, it should slide in pretty easily. So let me see if this works. Well, that went in really, really easily. It just slid right in this way for the most part. I had to do a little jigging, but it basically went back in. So now the trick is going to be to align up the holes. They look okay so far. I'm going to get an awl and try to get them situated. And the other thing I'm going to do is heat up the putty from the underneath to see if I can get that putty to set. I actually prepared it last night where I flattened it out, got a nice flat surface. But I'm going to try to get some of these screws in, and hopefully this won't be too much of an ordeal. Of course, the screws in there are a pain in the ass, but I'll try to get them in there and we'll see how it goes. Okay, well, I hooked up the fuel supply. I did something stupid. When I did the original measuring of all these lines, I measured it based on the original filter. This filter is an inch shorter, so naturally when I cut this it was an inch too short. So luckily I had about a foot left, so I cut this very carefully and got this to match up and mate very well. This protector over here, if you want to call it that, I don't know exactly. I know this is protecting from heat from the exhaust system, which is going to be hanging, gosh, I guess right around here. I don't know, we'll have to see, but I'm hoping that this curve is okay. I don't want to, this is probably going to be hanging down over here, I'm guessing. Although I seem to remember it comes through this opening here. I don't know, we'll have to see when we get to it. But anyway, the other thing is the installation of these screws went pretty well. I lined them up, but I got them all in actually without too much fanfare. And the ones that are really hard are the ones back here. I got those in. I was shocked that they actually went in. So everything is cleaned up in here. Everything is reinstalled. I'm going to be rerouting these fuel lines back into the engine compartment, into the trunk. This one goes right here. And you know what? If you put a little bit of lubricant on here, they slide in a lot easier. So I'm going to do that. Actually, this one is really, it's pretty hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it up to make it a little bit more pliable. And actually this one's fine. So I'm going to get that. That one goes right in there. It looks like it routes up over this little clip here. And this one probably goes down like that. So I'm just going to put some lubricant on it to make it easier to fish into the engine compartment. All right, so we can declare success on this. This is what it looks like under here. This was all cleaned up. I pre-installed these, that's why they're facing the opposite way. I'll probably regret that at some point, because if I ever have to change this out, that's going to have to come back out. All right, anyway, onwards and upwards. Well, what do we got going on here? Got a lot of parts. I got to get all this stuff back in here. So I watched one of the old videos that I took when I took this apart, and I have a pretty good idea of what we need to do. This is a new, this is a new pipe, so to speak, rubber hose that connects the gas tank to the filler. And what I'm going to do here is measure the distance Of course, I could, just take the old one and cut this. I could take the old one, measure it, and it'll probably be just fine. You know what? I'll probably do that. Cutting this thing is going to be a bear and a half. I have a nice sharp razor blade, and I'm going to have to score around it to score a line. I was also able to find some Roma blocks that I'm cleaning up downstairs. So I'm going to replace these with Roma blocks. There's absolutely nothing wrong with these, but I like Roma blocks. Anyway, so the sequence of events is you got to put the filler neck back in, and then you put this bracket on over here that holds the evaporation canister or whatever this thing is called, and you can connect the hoses and you're pretty much good to go. So let's get to that and cut this thing. This is actually I think it's a filler hose that I got off the internet. It was hard to find because of the size. I think it was 2 inches. I think it was 1/7/8 internal. No, it was more. I'm not sure. All right. Well, let's get to that and see how it goes. Well, I managed to cut the fuel filler neck pipe hose. Made a pretty good cut too. Used a brand new razor blade, and I used diesel to as a lubricant to let the blade cut better. I also did a little touch up on the fuel filler neck. It's kind of interesting. This was gloss black. I didn't think it was, but it looks like the whole thing was painted with gloss black. I kind of touched it up and put wax on it just to kind of make it look presentable. Not that it's a showpiece of the car. And I also restored the vapor separator. And what I did is I threw the whole thing in evapo-rust with heat, and I boiled it for, well, not really boiling it. I treated it for about 45 minutes, which took off most of the paint. But from everything I could determine, the original paint was gloss black, of course. And so I just sprayed it. It's sitting here drying out. What I'm going to do is spray the inside with WD-40. I already gave it a little bit of a shot, but I didn't want to put too much in there. I want to put it in from all the openings just to get some lubricant in there. Evapor-rust, once you treat the metal, will turn, it'll re-rust the metal, and it has this yellowish, I think, coating to it that's really hard to remove. You have to remove it physically. You have to sand it. Well, anyway, so that's the update. I'm going to let this dry overnight. There's no rush to getting this thing back on the car. This, though, I'm going to put on this afternoon. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll work out. All right. Well, this is a vapor separator, and it's been repainted and everything. This is going to be a little bit hard to describe, but I'll try it out. First of all, I painted this with gloss black from Rust-Oleum, and I will say this, I do not like the way that this paint was applied. There's a run right over there, right up here, but I don't care about that much. But it came out actually, I should back up a little bit. This thing came out, it's beautiful on the inside. It's going to be really hard to photograph. But the inside is pristine, and of course the outside now is pristine. But I did not like the level of gloss that this imparted on this part, even though it was gloss. And the way I could tell it was original gloss is that the finish down here was pretty much pristine, and it was glossy. It wasn't a flat, and it wasn't even semi. I think it was gloss. But the level of sheen on this gloss was too high for my liking, so you're going to think I'm a complete nut. But what I did was I actually take some Scotch-Brite and I knock down the gloss and, try to do that as uniformly as possible. And then I repolish it to try to bring the gloss back. And what you get is a slightly less glossy finish. And it's sort of time consuming. It only took like 5 or 10 minutes, but that's what you get. So I'm pretty happy with this. Here is that's my guitar, by the way. It's a Frankencaster. It's one of my guitars. I painted that myself. That was one of the best paint jobs I ever did. I really learned how to do it. And it's nitrocellulose. The guitar looks great. It plays pretty good. That's my vintage amp. It's a vintage like 1960, 68, 69, 70. A friend of mine from high school lent it to me and I never gave it back. So I've had it for like 50 years. All right, back to the story here. So this is the separator bracket. Separator hose is right here. This stuff is all ready to go back. And here's the... Ooh, that was a little crinkly. Here's the other hose. Just a little side note on the Roma blocks. These are I restored these Roma blocks using they're 74 millimeter Roma blocks. I was hoping to put these on the fuel filler. They're too big. I would need like 68 millimeter or 70 at the most. 74 is just too big. There's not enough to take up the slack. It goes all the way down to here. Believe it or not, it's only 4 millimeters. So these are going to have to go back into the parts bucket. So this stuff is all ready to be reinstalled. So let me give you an update on the trunk. All right, well, here's the completed trunk assembly, fuel system, if you will. Anyway, everything installed pretty well. I will say this, I had a little bit of trouble with this bracket, and you can see that, gosh, you can just barely see it, but I had to actually, that bracket would not go back. The bolts did not align on the housing. Well, the bolt holes on the body did not align with the bracket, so I had to Dremel out a little bit, a couple of millimeters of space to make it fit that much better. But nice and clean, looks really good. No lost parts. And what I'm going to be doing this morning maybe is reinstalling the sender. And I reinstalled that Piglia, believe it or not. I saved it and I reinstalled it. A little bit of a trick. Got a couple of these little covers that I'm going to have to put back. I have to find some spots. I think they went over there in the corner and over there. But it's looking pretty good. And so I'm going to be reinstalling that this morning. I might actually vacuum out that tank just to make sure there's no residual dust in there or anything like that. It should be pretty pristine though. All right, so that is, call it a wrap on the gas tank for now, and on to bigger and better things. What happened to my gas tank? I'll tell you what happened. That's what happened. I had to take the gas tank completely out of the car again. Why? Because I installed these 7 now little rings, washers in these clips on the car. Like an idiot. You know what these are for? The fuel sender. Except for that other silver one that I added by myself because I thought they went down here. So I had to take the tank back out. There's my tank. So now I can do it all over again. It'll take about an hour. I'll try to get it back in. What a dope I am. Well, what am I doing here this morning? Well, I'm starting to work on this exhaust. And what I'm doing here is I'm using some diesel and this heavy Scotch-Brite. After like sampling a couple of different things, I found the Scotch-Brite, this red Scotch-Brite works great. I'm taking off this baked on finish. It's baked on cosmoline. I'll try to give you an example. I know I'm moving the camera around. That's what we're talking about. This is baked on. It's baked on because it's heated. It's heat. It's been heated by the exhaust, and it's particularly difficult around this pipe. This part is much easier to get off, but this is just cosmoline I got to get off. I think this is going to do it with the... I tested some MEK and some wire brushes, but then I got down to this, and this is taking it off. This is a really beautiful example of a original Alfa. Let me see if I can clean this up here a little bit. V74, I imagine, is the year. That's the part number. What does that say? Licenza something. Alfa Romeo. Licenza. What does that say? Lieber Pichar? I have no idea. It sounds German. Anyway, I'm going to be hacking my way through this and clean this up. This I'm going to sandblast, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing. This is interesting because this finish is just like the finish on the gas tank. That's raw steel. This looks like that tourney coating. It rubs off fairly easily, or at least I can get down to it fairly easily once I get through the baked on finish using some heat. So let me hack my way through this, see how far, and see what we get. This is thankless work. What happened to my gas tank? I'll tell you what happened. That's what happened. I had to take the gas tank completely out of the car again. Why? Because I installed these 7 now little rings, washers in these clips on the car. Like an idiot. You know what these are for? The fuel sender. except for that other silver one that I added by myself because I thought they went down here. So I had to take the tank back out. There's my tank. So now I can do it all over again. It'll take about an hour. I'll try to get it back in. What a dope I am.